So the next question would be, who wrote the Bible? As we all know, it is said that the one who wrote the Torah is Prophet Moses, peace be upon him. The ones who wrote the Ketuvim, most of these books are anonymous. Nobody know who wrote them. But it is said that, for example, the book of the Kings and the book of Samuel, it could be that it was written by one of the priests or one of the head of the priests, because a long time ago people did not learn how to write and read, except if that person was one of the elite, like probably a prince or a king, or maybe like a priest. So those people maybe would know how to read and write. However, the major people, they don't know how to read or write. They are illiterate. So it is said that the ones who wrote these books could be someone from the elite or maybe one of the priests. Same thing with the Nevi'im, allegedly by the names of the books. So that means each one who wrote the book has their name on that book, like it is titled by the name of the prophet who wrote that book. But we have some books that no one knows who wrote them. For example, the book of Malachi. And this book was written by someone. He was named Malachi, that means my angel or my servant or my messenger, but no one know who is that person. There is no name. Same thing with Obadiah. Obadiah means Abdullah, or means the servant of Allah. No one know who wrote that book. It is named by Abdullah, by the servant of Allah, but no one know who wrote it. When we read these books, you will find that we have some discrepancies and some of the mistakes, and probably historical mistakes. So for example, the book of Daniel, if you actually read that book, it is very confusing, because you will find that some of the vocabularies that they were used, they were Persian names, but then the book says that it was written, or it indicates that it was in the period of the Babylon exile. The Babylon exile was around like 400 to 600 BC, but then you have the Persian exile that it was about 400 BC, and we find that there is some kind of mixing in the vocabularies between the Babylon and the Persian. We will find some historical mistakes. So for example, we have the king Belshazzar, was never a king historically, but in the book of Daniel he mentions Belshazzar as a king. So how come he is a king but we don't have any real historical records about him as a king? Same thing with Darius. Darius is a name as a king in the book of Daniel, but historically we don't have any record that he was a king. He was an unknown king. No one know who is he. Also, we find some Persian vocabularies in that book, although the book allegedly was written before the Persian exile. It was written at the time of the Babylon exile. If we move to the book of Zechariah, for example, we will find that the first 8 chapters talk about the Persian exile, but then from chapter 9 to 14 it talks about the Maccabees era, and that was around 300 BC. The Persian exile was about like 100 years before the Maccabees era starts. That was like about 400 years BC. Maybe, and it is suspected that the first 8 chapters were added to the other chapters from 9 to 14 chapters, and they were blended together. And it could be that there were 2 prophets by the name Zechariah. We have the first Zechariah who lived at the time of the Persian exile, and we have the second Zechariah who lived in the Maccabees time. That's why sometimes, when the scribes were writing and copying these books, some of them probably mixed up between the both Zechariah, and they just put them all together and merged the two parts together to make them as one book. Same thing also happened with the book of Isaiah. If we read the book of Isaiah, we have 3 different styles of writings. The first one, they are the chapters between 1 to 33, and the person who wrote them, his name is Isaiah the son of Amos, because if we read the first chapter, it says that the one who wrote this book, his name is Isaiah the son of Amos. But then we have the chapters between 34 to 51, who is named by Isaiah, but we don't know if it's the same Isaiah as this Isaiah son of Amos. And also we have the chapters between 51 to 66. That's a third part with a different style of writing. So we don't know if that's exact, like if those 3 parts were written by one person or by 3 different persons, and they were merged together to make them as one book. Some of the high criticism scholars, they say that it could be that that we have different Isaiahs, that they wrote these books and then they were merged together by the scribes as a mistake.